Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a wee update on a few wee news stories linked to Celtic over the course of Monday. We're going to have a wee chat regarding the likely sort of knee injury that Jota has suffered and also the expectable time out, whether he requires surgery or whether it's going to respond simply to physiotherapy and rehabilitation. Also, going to have a wee look at the 5 Celtic players who today have been nominated for the various Player of the Year categories, and also a wee run through of the Celtic players who've played in the league so far this season who are expected, unfortunately, to miss out on their winners' medal as they won't have played enough league games by the end of the season to qualify for the 25% of league games criteria, although there are a couple of options that the club can explore, which would give all the players who've played this season in a league match a winner's medal. So, starting with Jota's right knee injury, as you'll know, he had to go off injured after around about half an hour of the Celtic 5-0 win over Dundee United that clinched the league for us. He was seen in the celebrations after the match wearing a large knee brace on his right knee and using crutches to get around. The initial diagnosis from the physio and the medical staff is that Jota has suffered a knee meniscus or cartilage injury. The prognosis and recovery time from these sorts of injuries can be quite variable, depending on the severity of the tear or injury to the meniscus. If it is quite mild and will respond just to physiotherapy and rehabilitation, usually player is out for 4 to 6 weeks. So even with that sort of injury, he's going to be out for the rest of the season, right from now, the final 4 league games and the cup final against Aberdeen at the end of the May. So I think unless things take a dramatic improvement, it's likely Jota's going to be out for the rest of the season. However, if he is going to require surgery, he could be out for a couple of months, up to even 3 or 4 months, depending on what sort of surgery is required and how well he does with physiotherapy and rehabilitation and strengthening after his operation. The plan apparently at the moment with Celtic is that they're going to give it another couple of days for the swelling and bruising and bleeding to settle down, and then he'll be going for a scan and a further assessment by a knee specialist. The scan will tell the surgeons and the physios and medical staff how much of a tear there is in the meniscus, if it's one or both of the meniscuses that's injured, and if there are any accompanying ligament injuries, as quite often if you do tear your medial meniscus, you can also injure your anterior cruciate and your medial collateral ligaments. And obviously, if you do have 3 injuries all at the same time, that obviously does delay recovery, which is why the scan is so important. 2 options with surgery. You can either try to repair it if it's partly torn. That does take longer usually to recover, 3 to 4 months to recover, as it does require a lot of physiotherapy and strengthening and rehabilitation after the operation to ensure that everything heals up properly. The other option, if they do go for surgery, is to partially or completely remove the torn meniscus. The risk with that, though, is although recovery is down to 1 to 2 months before getting back to playing football, the risk with that is that there's a very high chance of the football player suffering from early and significant knee arthritis. And I'm sure you all know quite a number of retired players from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, all of whom had their knee cartilage removed and are now in their 40s and 50s and 60s having knee replacements at a very young age. And so my expectation is once he's had the scan, that will determine if it is a meniscus injury, whether there's any associated ligament injuries, and then that allows the specialist to decide whether to go with conservative treatment such as physiotherapy, exercises, rehabilitation, or whether it's going to require some form of surgery. And I would expect that Celtic would look to do whatever form of surgery that's applicable, which maximises Jota's likelihood of recovery and also minimises any risk of early arthritis for Jota in his future. So, as I said, expecting him to go for a scan on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm sure Brendan Rodgers will include it in his press conference on Friday if it's not released before then. 5 Celtic players have been announced today for the various Player of the Year awards. In the main award, 3 Celtic players have been nominated out of 4. Dyson Maida, Nicholas Kuhn and Callum McGregor, with the 4th player being Simon Murray of Dundee. Clearly, Dyson Maida is a massive odds-on favourite. I would be very, 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 very surprised if any of the other players get more than a few votes. I have to say, I'm a wee bit surprised that Kasper Schmeichel wasn't on that list. He's been excellent for Celtic all season through, whilst Nicholas Kuhn did have a brilliant start to the season, but in 2025 his form has very much dipped in Scottish football, and so I have to say I'm a wee bit surprised that Kuhn's on the list rather than Kasper Schmeichel. Moving on to the Young Player of the Year award, Arnie Engels of Celtic has been nominated for that, along with Lennon Miller of Motherwell, James Wilson of Hearts, and Hamza Igamani of Rangers. I think it was not for his spell out through injury. Lennon Miller probably would be the favourite. However, I think Arnie Engels probably goes into this award as the number 1 favourite, as he has been consistent throughout most of the season, had some excellent performances for Celtic both in domestic football and in European football, whilst the other 3 have been a wee bit inconsistent and hot and cold for their various 3 clubs. And for those that follow the women's team, the Celtic Girls, Emma Lawton, the Celtic fullback and wingback and right winger, has been announced as one of the 4 nominees for Women's Player of the Year. Finally, moving on to the third sanction. Now that Celtic have won the league, Celtic can now plan who are going to get the 25 medals that automatically are awarded to the club. To qualify for a winner's medal for the league season, you need to play 25% of all the league games, with there obviously being 38 league games to a season. And that does mean that 6 players who have played for Celtic so far in the 24-25 season are going to miss out, as they are not going to be able to achieve the required 10 games in the league season to get a medal. 6 players are Luis Palma, who's currently on loan at Olympiacos. He played 8 games for us in the league before leaving for Greece, and as his loan will be continuing, he won't be back for any of the last 4 league fixtures. Also missing out will be Johnny Kenny, who has 4 appearances in the league for Celtic this season. Williami Sinasalo, our current goalkeeper, he also has 4 appearances so far, and with there only being 4 more games this season, neither Sinasalo or Kenny will get to the required 10. Also missing out will be Mike Nawrocki, Odin Thiago Holm, and Stephen Welsh. Usually also, as well as the players, winners' medals are given to managers and coaching staff, and Celtic will receive 25 medals automatically. There is the option for the club to buy extra medals to reward extra players or extra staff members, and we'll see whether Celtic do buy a few more medals, as I do think it would be a bit unfair on Luis Palma, who played 8, and Viliami Sinisalo, who's likely to be playing 7 or 8 league games for us this season, for them not to receive the reward for their performances this season. At the moment, no other significant Celtic news. Still waiting for some updates on the Greg Taylor situation and whether he is or isn't going to decide to sign a new contract for Celtic. As I said before, it does look like the stumbling block is Taylor doesn't want to be back up to Kieran Tierney and wants to go away and earn big money being a number 1 left back rather than big money being a number 2 left back. And so we'll see whether Taylor decides to stay and back up Kieran Tierney, with the likelihood that he'll be playing a good 30 or more games every season because of episodically resting Kieran Tierney, and the likelihood is he may miss a few games here and there through injury as well, or whether Taylor does go off to America, Europe, or England to play as a number 1 left back at a lesser team. Just coming back to the winners' medal, just to answer one or two other wee questions that cropped up as I was thinking there. 2 of our players who played for us prior to the January transfer window, Alex Valley and Kyogo, they both will have played enough games prior to leaving to get a winners' medal for this season. And similarly, Jeffrey Schlupp, who joined us in January, in the January window on loan, he also has now played 10 games for Celtic in the league, and so he will be getting a winner's medal. And currently 21 players have become eligible to win a winner's medal. That finishes things off for today's video. We'll be doing other videos through the week, depending on how things are panning out in terms of new news and any updates before the Rangers match on Sunday. Before we go, just a wee pleasant suggestion, encouragement. If you are new to the channel, not yet subscribed, please do click that subscriber button. Keep the numbers going up and up through the 1200s. That'd be brilliant. And do feel free to pop your own thoughts into the comment section regarding Player of the Year, the winners' medals, and any other Celtic thoughts and issues of the moment. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.